Welcome to the Winthrop Esports Twitch. We are back for another one. I'm here with Christian, our iRace gamer, and we're going to be looking over his Daytona International Speedway race. Did I say that right?
Yep.
Cool. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Christian, and I am a junior sport management major, and I've been doing sim racing since like the start of the pandemic, and I've just recently started on iRacing, and I've decided to give the eNASCAR College Series a try for Winthrop.
What would you say got you into racing?
So I've had like a steering wheel since probably I was like in middle school, and then I kind of didn't touch it for like 3-4 years until eventually during the pandemic I had a bunch of extra time in high school, so I started just kind of doing random stuff, like not really racing, until I found like a online league, and I started doing that in Project Cars for a little bit, and then I switched in the like 2021 to Assetto Corsa Competizione, which is like GT cars, and then over the past few months I started getting into iRacing and NASCAR.
Wow, very interesting. All right, well, trying to think of a better question. That was a really good answer. So what led you to pursue this on a collegiate level?
I was kind of just searching on the internet one day, and I saw a video on it, and I was like, I don't know how good I am. I'm not very experienced with stock cars because they drive very differently from the other cars that I'm used to, but I was like, I can try it, and I have to do this honors thesis, which is like a project that I have to do for my degree, and I was like, I wonder if I could make something work here. So I sent a bunch of emails, and it took about like a month, and I got all the approvals, and then that was that. So
Nice. I know we talked a little bit about how this is a simulation game that's a little closer to what it is in real life in comparison to other ones. So I was wondering if you could kind of revisit that, what you were telling me, and go a little bit more in depth about what makes this one more realistic than a lot of the other simulation games out there.
So, in terms of like what I was saying before with sports, there's like, say, a game like Madden, not to throw them under the bus or anything, but
Sorry, Madden enjoyers.
yeah, it's not like you can't simulate running around on a field and playing the game, as opposed to with motorsports, you can plug in a steering wheel and you can get very similar levels of realism. And iRacing is to the level of realism where a lot of the drivers will use it as like a tool to practice, and yeah.
Okay, that's actually pretty cool. So this is something that's also used by professionals.
Yeah, a lot of the current NASCAR drivers. And what was interesting, part of the reason I'm doing this thesis is one of the drivers, William Byron, and then one of the Truck Series drivers, Rajah Caruth. I think Rajah Caruth actually started on the College Series and transitioned a few years ago into real life.
Okay, that's actually pretty cool. Let's see. We are getting the video pulled up. Very exciting.
Yep.
To kind of something small that you hinted at that I thought was kind of cool, but I wanted to learn a little bit more about, as you said you weren't as familiar with stock cars.
Yeah.
So is there a level of like realism with how different cars handle, and you can kind of like tell with the wheel and stuff like that?
Yeah, definitely. So the cars that I'm used to driving are GT cars, which are Grand Touring cars, they're called, and they're basically like, so imagine like a Porsche, right? Just their sports car. They just take it, they put like racing suspension on it, and put just a wing, and it has a lot of the systems as a normal car. And those cars are a lot lighter, they're a lot more agile, the brakes are a lot better, as opposed to a stock car, which, even though they're called stock cars, are anything but stock. The brakes are not good. The car slides around a lot, it has no downforce, it has some, but very little. And yeah, also switching from simulators made it, because the way that ACC, which is Assetto Corsa Competizione, handles is a lot different. You can feel a little bit more of the car in that game just because how it's something with the tire model, but yeah.
Okay. And in this race, what kind of car are you driving?
So this is a Chevy or not Corvette, Camaro, and this is the Xfinity car. So there's NASCAR has three series: the Cup, Xfinity, and Trucks. So this one is in the middle.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
I had another question, it just totally slipped my mind. Oh, I remember now. So I'm completely unfamiliar with this kind of game. Would you be able to give us like some basic level lingo or like little things that most people that aren't in the game wouldn't know?
I think one thing that's interesting. So for this race, I had a spotter, which is I found somebody on the Playfly Discord who offered to be my spotter. Name's Chase. So thank you, Chase, if you end up watching this.
Shout out to Chase.
So he's like in my ear telling me where the other cars are. And you can't hear it on the video because I didn't record that. But he's telling me like exactly. So I hear once they start, he'll be saying like car outside. It'll get 3 wide at some point. It'll be like 3 wide. You're on the outside, like that type of thing. I don't know if that answers.
No, that does. That does. I'm trying to learn more about this game and also have the viewers learn a bit more about this game because this is very cool and it seems like it's a little bit more underground than a lot of the other stuff that we typically put out there. So yeah. Okay, very interesting.
You can see now on the stream it's saying, so usually there's an in-game spotter, but it's coming up like outside clear. And then if you don't mind, if I could just a little bit of a background on it. So I
go ahead.
was able to qualify pole for this race, which means so before you have 1 lap to set a time, and usually you have 2 laps. You have 1 lap to get up to speed, and then 1 lap to go like send it. So this you only had 1, and since Daytona is such a long track, it's about who gets up to speed, and I guess other people didn't realize that. So yeah, that's why I'm starting in the front there. And then just off the start, so Daytona, which is interesting, it's super speedway, so there's a lot of pushing. You'll actually see here, this guy eventually is going to start pushing me forward because it's completely full throttle.
Like
yeah.
Actually pushing you forward?
Yeah, you'll see. Like he'll be on my bumper. So.
Oh.
Yeah.
Now, I do want to ask, how realistic are the crashes? Like, obviously you're not getting physically hurt, but how are you able, like, how is the feeling of getting into a crash and like how do you recover from that?
It depends. So it depends what type of equipment you're running. So some of the steering wheels have stronger force than others. Mine, in some cars, for example, like actually can hurt your wrist if you are not careful. Like there's so much force that like with some crashes you want to actually let go of the wheel so you don't hurt yourself. Obviously it's a lot less dangerous than in real life, but there also is damage. So if you get into the wall, your car hit the like wall hard enough, your car will be like you can total it and it'll be done. So.
Oh, and that will just completely knock you out the race. Like there's no respawning or anything.
Yep.
So
if the engine goes, you're done.
Dumb question, but again, I'm not sure. But this is really, really like realistic. Where if you damage your car enough, you're out for the count.
Yep.
Wow. Okay. So can you kind of run me down what's going on right now? It seems that things are starting to.
So right now there's a caution. So somebody in the back spun or crashed or something. So they, like in real life, they have cautions, which basically means they'll wave a yellow flag, and it means everybody like slow down, catch up to the pace car, and go slow until they can clean up whatever incident. Even though in this it's not really a safety thing, it's just coming from real life, but in real life that's why they do it. So it'll be a few laps. We'll sit, like I'll catch up to that guy. Right now I'm kind of trying to save fuel. So that's another thing too, is fuel's a big part of it. So what you do under these is you pull the clutch in, and then it just kind of stalls out the engine, and you coast. Yeah. So this'll be going for a few laps.
That's really cool that you also have to take into account fuel. This
Yeah.
is like, okay, this is very complex.
You can see on the menu I'm checking, and I have a thing up top too with the fuel calculation.
So what is your setup? I've seen a little bit on like certain lives and stuff where people have like their chairs or like leaning back and moving and everything. What kind of setup do you have?
Mine is, so I have a direct drive wheel, which means there are different types of wheel, but that means that the motor, like the steering wheel, is directly connected to the motor of the wheelbase. Um, so I have, it's called Moza, the company. Um, and I have like a little kind of wheel stand with a monitor attached to it. So it's not like a full on rig like some of the people have. But yeah.
Okay, that's pretty cool. And previously, you were talking about something called a pace car.
Yeah. So
What
that's
exactly is that?
that guy in the front. So basically, when everybody slows down, they send that car out so all the cars can follow him, and he can so if the pace car, say, sometimes if somebody will crash on the main straightaway and it's blocking the track, they may have the pace car go through the pit lane. So it's kind of just, it's exactly like what it the name is. It helps the cars keep pace. Yeah.
That makes sense. And so, is there pit stops as well where you can get your tires changed out and like get refuel and everything?
Yep.
Like in the actual.
Yeah, there is. So that's kind of what, if you see me checking back and forth a lot, I changed it a lot just to check fuel and tires. And yeah, you'll see in not for a while, because so every track is different on tires and fuel. This track burns a lot of fuel because you're going flat out almost the whole time, and it's a long track. But tires, because the track is so banked, like the corners, you can go full throttle, and you don't really need to do much turning. So the tires will last a lot longer at this track compared to a shorter track.
Wow. Okay. The more you talk, the more this is just showing to be like even more complex than I even imagined. You have to account for the track, the tires, the fuel, the car. Like, how are you able to manage and keep up with all of that and not like
a lot of
stimulated?
A lot of it is sorry, can you repeat the question? I got distracted.
You're
fine.
I
don't know if you saw the text on the thing. That's a button you can hit if somebody was talking. I turned the chat off because it's distracting, but people have it, and there's a button to tell people to stop talking.
I was just asking, how do you manage and take into account, like, it seems like all the different variables and everything that you have to think of?
The main thing is, like, practice. You kind of get used to it over a while, and it's generally, like, not something you worry about all at once when you're learning. So yeah, it's also helpful to have a spotter, so he's able to see all of the same things that I am, so he's able to like relay back information. But for generally it's easier to do on the straightaways or when there's not much happening, which is kind of difficult at this track if somebody's pushing your car. But yeah, that's me just, so on the restart, we're about to restart here, I'm checking to see when he goes. So originally when I started the race, the leader gets to control the restart. So there's a zone, and then he can accelerate whenever he wants. So I need to be ready that he doesn't just pull a giant gap. This track is also interesting because the bump drafting, the pushing, like I was talking about, you don't want, you don't want to get too much of a gap, because what'll happen is if they get a better run and somebody's pushing them behind, they'll just drive around you and just leave you to go backwards.
So it's like a balancing act.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Wow. This is a lot. And how often would you say that you practice, and what does that look like?
It depends on the track. So this one, because of the way that eNASCAR had it set up, there's something called a time attack, where basically it was whoever can set the fastest lap gets in. That's how they determine who gets into what split. So I didn't really need to do too much practice, because I did like literally 700 laps on it and still couldn't get into the top split. That was a whole nother thing. People found a certain like exploit in the game where you could gain time, and it involved driving around in circles for 3 hours before you could set a lap. But yeah, this track also, because most of it, like the main thing you need to practice is the bump drafting. So there's not it's not like you really need to learn the track that much, if that makes sense.
Okay. And what is, you said bump drafting? What is that?
So it's when the car behind you literally pushes you. If you saw right there, he literally will come up to your bumper and push you. So if you'll see on the outside, they're going to do it again.
This is a combat virtual sport.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So, and it gives you like a speed boost. So you kind of want to work together with other people. Again, that was the other nice thing about having a spotter is he was able to go in the chat and tell other cars and be like, hey, we need to push, yeah, that type of thing. So he's going to do it again. So he's going to literally, nope, he didn't do it that time. But you can actually feel it through the steering wheel. Like your whole car just like will go back and forth. And you're going to see, I'm going to do it to the guy in front too. Eventually you'll see that doesn't go very well. If you push, you can imagine if they're in a pack, like you see how they're coming up behind. Yeah. That was me trying to block unsuccessfully to prevent him from getting the run. I didn't want him to wreck me. But if you push too hard, like in a line like this, there's just a huge wreck. So I think, if I remember correctly, yeah. So right now I'm hearing 3 wide, and he's still like saying still 3 wide, and somebody's gonna make it 4 here in a minute, and you'll see. Is it this lap? No, not this lap. Okay, next lap. But
oh goodness! And you said so 3, 4 wide. Does that mean like the number of cars that are next to you?
Yeah, which is slightly terrifying. So there we go. I pushed him. If you saw, he got sideways.
That does look a little scary. How are you able to like keep your cool when it gets really tense like this?
Honestly, I don't really. It's just you gotta focus, and you gotta try to. The main thing is you gotta keep the wheel as straight as possible and keep your hands as relaxed as possible, so you can feel what the car's doing. Because it's like you're really tempted to just hold the wheel as tight as you can, so it doesn't move at all. And if you do that, you'll lose the car.
That's the first thing that came to mind for me to do is just lock in. Okay, very interesting. And what's going on now?
Yeah. Oh. That was somebody pushing too hard there, so they got loose. They call it, which basically means the rear tires will lose some grip.
And if he were to spin out, that would have taken out those cars next to him, right?
Yeah. So often at Daytona, just because of the nature of the racing, they call it in real life the big one. Somebody will push somebody too hard. Somebody will go sideways in front of the whole field, and then it's just a big mess.
And all of this happens in actual racing too. Like they're bumping and pushing the back of each other's cars.
Yep.
Oh, I don't have the mental
the lower level series. So actually, the top series, the Cup series, they don't really do it anymore. But they used to like actually lock bumpers. So they'll literally and they'll just like go for laps. But they banned it. So that was a push gone bad. If you see, I barely held on to that. I think this is where things go bad, is it? Maybe it's the next lap.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, it's the next lap. But
I'm, like, tense watching this right now. Like, I'm actually tensed up watching this right now.
It's actually, so when you're driving, it's, like, such focus that you have to have that you almost, like, forget about everything else. Yeah, this is it. So if you saw it said you're on the bottom 3 wide, somebody's going to try to, so this track, generally, you don't want to go more than 3 wide because more than 3 cars can't fit on the track. Yeah, there we go. So somebody hit the back of my car. Right now I'm losing it, going sideways, trying to catch the car. It's like, I don't know if you can see my brake input, but so somebody made it 4 wide. They basically pit maneuvered me, and that was it.
Wow.
So the car here felt mostly intact. So what you look for is if it breaks the suspension, the steering wheel, as opposed to, so generally, like when you're going in a straight line, the steering wheel's straight. But if the suspension breaks to keep the car in a straight line, you literally have to drive like with the wheel sideways. So if there I'm testing and seeing if the car feels like the alignment, everything feels straight. Yeah. So I went basically from 4th to 24th in about a second.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it can change pretty fast and things can go awry quickly, it seems.
Yeah. You can also, so the main thing right now we're thinking, me and my spotter are thinking, like, you can, so this track, that wreck like that is bound to happen again with somebody else. So we're like, it's not over right now. This is not ideal. But we're like, car's mostly okay. We'll keep going.
Okay. Is there any other ways is it just mainly the suspension that you're looking at for like how damaged the car is, or is there other things that you can kind of tell that, yeah, the car may not be?
So with the engine, you can, if it's really damaged, you can listen if you accelerate and it's like a delayed response, or it just, something doesn't sound how it did before. And since driving the car so much, you kind of get the sound of what it's supposed to sound like in your head, especially after doing like 700 laps. So yeah, I was kind of listening for that. The other thing is top speed, but I can't really test it until the restart. So right now, I think the car is mostly okay, which wasn't correct. You'll see it did get like some damage with the top speed, but
Okay.
yeah. So right now, I decided I should have pit here, but I decided not to, which you'll see how that goes once they restart.
I want to ask, what was your thought process after that crash happened and then you were coming back and you decided not to pit? Like, what was running through your head in that moment?
Honestly, I was mainly disappointed. So at some tracks, you'll kind of get upset if somebody wrecks you. In that case, I wasn't, because this is just the nature of the track and it happens. So I honestly wasn't really that upset. I was just kind of like, that's, like, I really thought we had, like, the opportunity to get a good result. So it's kind of a bit of that going through my head, but still, like, optimistic about making a comeback. So
Okay. And I don't know what happened at the end, so no spoilers, but I believe that you were able to pull through in the end, hopefully.
I did, yeah.
Nice. All right. Sorry, chat. Spoilers, I guess. But okay. And is it just, so how fast paced would you say races like this are? Like, is it kind of just like, oh, it starts off slow and then near the end is where people really start like flooring it and going for it? Or
Usually the goal is to survive into the last 20 laps, because that's really when, so people kind of in the beginning are trying to save fuel, they're trying to keep their car in good condition. So that's why me and the spotter were a little confused why. So if you're doing like 4 wide for the win, I guess it makes sense, right? Because you got to go for it. But that early on, we were like, why? So, but yeah, definitely it'll gradually start to heat up more towards the end.
okay. And so you're talking a lot about like having a spotter. Do you have to have a spotter?
You don't have to. So there's an in-game one that I'll tell you, but it's on tracks like this where cars are so close to you, and like the margin is so low. Having an actual person is a lot more helpful, just because it's a bit easier to know when you're. Because sometimes the game there's like a little bit of like a threshold, so it may say clear and their bumper still may be there, and if you hear clear and you move over, it doesn't go well. So generally the shorter tracks, you don't really need one as much. It really depends on tracks that you're side by side a lot. Having a spotter is helpful, but yeah.
And so there are tracks that are like, I guess, not as wide as this one where it has to be more like in a line, or
Yeah, so ovals are, on paper they kind of look like a circle, but they're actually quite different from each other in terms of length, in terms of banking. So
and
yeah.
banking is the corners.
Yeah, banking is how much. So if you, in Daytona in real life, it's the corners are literally like a wall. Basically, it's like it was like 30 degrees or something, 30 something degrees. So it's steep.
Not scary at all.
Yeah. If you see in real life on like the cameras on the car too, you can't really see it here. But the cars are actually like, it's like, looks like they're wall riding almost. So.
Ooh. Okay. Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay. So now it seems that, what place are you in? I'm trying to.
So I didn't pit
the
here. A lot of the other people did. So I went from 24th to 9th, under the pit cycle. So under a bunch of people pit, and right now they're getting ready to restart.
And can you pit at any time, or how does that work?
So under green flag, you can pit whenever you want. Under the caution, so the caution flag comes out, you go around one time, and then you can enter the pits, and it's open for like 2 laps, and then they close the pits. So if you see right now, it says pit lane closed. So you can only pit if your car's like about to explode or something. So
That is fair. Okay.
because you'll get a penalty. So you only want to do it unless you really need to.
I'm seeing, what is the bar at the top underneath the rearview mirror?
So that's your lap delta. So it's the change of your fastest lap basically. So right now on this restart, I'm 4 seconds. It's like constantly updating. But from the point where I am at the track, I'm 4.5 seconds off of the fastest lap I've done.
Okay.
So it's more to help you with like consistency. Just on this track is a bit different because it's not really, you can't really have necessarily a faster pace than somebody else, as opposed to like a road course. You can actually gain like a lot of time through the corner. So your lap delta just shows you kind of how close you are to your best lap.
Okay. Interesting. Very interesting. It seems that things are starting to speed up and heat up.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. That was scary.
Yeah. So I don't really know what happened there. I think he got pushed too hard.
Is it like possible for someone to purposely kind of
yes,
bump you a little hard just to get you out of the way?
Yes. You'll see that towards the end. I did that a little bit by accident to somebody. They were like not, the guy in front like was dragging his brake or something, and wasn't pushing enough. So I was like gave a push to the car in front, and I pushed a tiny bit too hard. But yeah, so right now you're seeing kind of I'm dropping back a bit. So from the damage, I thought there was this is like the straight line speed thing. So there was damage to the bodywork, which is causing drag, which is slowing me down. So you see them basically passing me like I'm standing still at this point. So this all happened for a little bit. Yeah, I don't know how much of this you're going to want to watch because it's just the field. They almost lapped me, and then they had a huge wreck. So I managed to stay on the lead lap, which was, yeah, we were just, it was like a 20-minute window. We were just, me and the spotter was like wreck, and they would go like 3 wide, 4 wide, and then they'd still not wreck. Yeah. So sometimes you'd expect like after one wreck, everybody's bunched back up again. There's going to be like another wreck, but sometimes it happens where you're the one who gets like damage and stuff, and you need a caution, and then it just doesn't happen for a long time. But yeah.
Is it normal for there to be at least like 1 or 2 wrecks whenever there's a race, or was this kind of just like a?
Yeah, there's usually there's like 1 or 2 like giant wrecks, which is what happened in this race. So, yeah.
Is it this? I guess like a dumb question, but is it better? Where is it better to be whenever there is a wreck, like in the front or the middle or the? Oh, I think it just happened. That car that was on the left of you, I think that you just passed.
Yeah, I think he may have had more damage too, or something broke. Generally, you want to be either. The best place to be is in the front, right? Because then it's happening behind you, and you don't really need to do anything. The second best place to be is in the back, kind of where I am. So if they wreck right now, I have enough space where I can brake and come to almost a complete stop if I need to. You do not want to be in the middle, because if the wreck's happening and people are sliding, you got no control over what happens. Like, you just are holding on and just hoping you can get around it.
Okay. So, sorry, I'm listening, and I'm also, this is just so interesting. This is my first time seeing something like this before.
Yeah.
So now it seems like, is this at a point where you're purposely hanging back, or is this where you're kind of realizing the
car is broken, and I'm like, oh no. So usually, like, you can sometimes, if the car's a little bit damaged, the draft of the car, because it's like they're punching a hole in the air basically. So if you're behind somebody, that's why you get more speed. But my car was damaged to the point where it didn't matter. I was just slower, and I couldn't stay in the draft. So they're running away. And at this point, we're starting to be like, this is not great. My spotter actually thought I was going to pit the first time during the wreck, which, thinking back, I don't really know why I didn't, but yeah.
And you eventually do pit?
Yeah.
Okay.
So when they wreck, so generally pitting under yellow flag is the best time, because you lose the least amount of time. You'll lose a lot less positions if the cars are going, say, like 50 miles an hour as opposed to like 200. So you only really want to pit under yellow flag just because it takes less time.
So what's the difference between, other than like time, I guess, what's the difference between pitting under a yellow flag and you said a green flag?
Yeah. So green flag is generally a lot scarier at a track like this because you have to go. So the pit lane has a speed limit, so you need to go from like, I don't know what I'm doing. You think even with like a damaged car, I was going like 190. You have to go 190 to 60 in basically a brick that doesn't have very good brakes. So this guy you see here is somebody else who's struggling with the same situation. So we're trying to work together now to try to get at least delay the field getting back around to lap us. So at this point, that's what we're thinking, is just work together. I think eventually he's just going to ditch me because he's going to realize my car is so much slower. Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know that this was such like there was more group effort to this than I originally thought. I kind of just was like, oh, this must be a thing where it's like you versus everybody else, but it seems like it's more of a collective.
Yeah, it depends on the track. Daytona is a very, like, you need to work and trust the other people.
Okay. So what's happening? Is this where he's realizing that you're a little slow, so he's leaving?
He's like, bye. So you'll see, I'll stick with him for a little bit, and then probably, like, in this corner, he'll just drive into the distance.
Yeah, okay. Seems like the slower part of the race.
So right now, while I'm doing this, the field is still like 2-3 wide, just like bumping and causing a huge mess, and I'm just out here by myself, just driving, hoping not to get lapped.
That's fair.
Yep.
All right. Very riveting, very interesting. And when do you? I feel like I might have already asked this, but when do you decide to pit at this point?
Right now, I'm waiting for a yellow flag, and we're just hoping that something happens so we can get a free pit stop.
Somebody gets into a wreck?
Basically, we're just like... You generally, when you're in the field, you don't want them to wreck, but when you're not and you're by yourself, you're like, please wreck, please wreck, please wreck.
That is fair. Hopefully there will be one coming up, but yeah.
No.
You ever play Rocket League?
I did. I was not good at it.
How would you compare this game to Rocket League?
I mean, I would say, like, I mean, like, it has the same, like, the skill required in Rocket League is, I still, even though it's not, like, obviously it's not realistic, I still have, like, an appreciation for the skill that some of the people have. I just don't, I was not good at it.
That's fair. Rocket League is a really hard game.
Yeah.
Really fun game, though. It is fun. Would recommend. So
what other games are you good at?
Not really much, honestly. My Steam library is like, so I have like a category of like the games that I play often, and it's, I think probably 8 of 10 of them are racing games of some sort. Whether it's like an actual like sim or just something that's random involving cars. So it's
okay. What would you say your like second favorite racing game is?
I think probably like Assetto Corsa and Assetto Corsa Competizione. Just because there's a lot more variety of cars to drive. There's less of an so those games aren't really. So the good thing about iRacing is that they have a very good competition system. So they'll do like races every hour. So like if you wanted to right now, you just go on their schedule and you say, I want to do this race, and you can go do it. As opposed to some of the other ones, you have to like sign up for races at a certain time, and there's not. Yeah.
Give us like a tier list.
I feel like it depends on. There's a lot of things. I feel like just driving experience, ACC, I think is, and there are a lot of people that are going to disagree with me, but I think that one is just the best. Like it has the best tire model. It's the most realistic. The cars behave the most like you'd guess in real life. I think AC driving wise, I like more than iRacing, but multiplayer wise, it just can't compete with it. Yeah, what other race? A lot of the other ones I just don't really. Those are like the main racing games.
It's like Forza, right?
Yeah, Forza is like. I don't really like it as much just because I don't want to sound like you know. But like the realism,
say it.
Yeah,
the
we
realism
love
of
controversial
Forza
takes.
is just not. It's not meant to be realistic. That's the main thing. But even like just because I tried to play it just like with a controller and not a steering wheel and just kind of tried to play it casually, and it still wasn't. I just didn't like it. But I used to. That's how I started on like Forza 4 on the Xbox 360. So
But like, there's like Gran Turismo.
Gran Turismo's a little bit more realistic to Forza. I haven't played it because I don't have a PlayStation. So I don't really know there, but
I've played it on the PS2. Yeah. And then I scratched the disc and never got to play it again. But
oh no.
for all the Twitch chatters in chat, that third voice you hear is Summer. Say hi, Summer.
Hi, I'm producing this week. Hey.
Yeah, she's our producer for today. So what's going on now? It seems like you've picked back up and now you're
So now I
surrounded by people.
found more damaged cars. So right now, one of the guys is a lap down, and the guy in front of me just has a damaged car. So my spotter said in chat to them, he's like, "Hey, let's just work together." So you can see the red on the thing on the right, that list of red cars. So that's saying that those cars are a lap ahead of you and they're approaching quickly. So at this point, it's just we're gonna work together and we're gonna delay the inevitable as long as possible and just hope for a caution.
What is the inevitable? That sounds spooky.
The big one, which I don't know if we'll be able to see it from this, but apparently, like it wrecked like 15 people out of the race.
Whoa!
Yeah.
What? Like completely out of the race?
Most of them got a lap down, so you'll see after like pitting and being all go into last place, like the last person on the lead lap in like 12th place, because everybody else got wrecked. So
it seems like this is a very high stakes where you can go from being at the very front to all of a sudden at your
Yeah.
the very back. How do you keep your mental just solid when something like that happens when you've had such a far lead and now you're having to
I think that the main thing is just being prepared for it. So all of these guys going into the race, like it's Daytona, you know what to expect. So you're kind of just like, you're prepared already in the back of my mind. Like I may get wrecked and just go from first to last. This race, so since this race is not the highest level split, there's a lot less at stake. So people are a lot more relaxed, but in the higher splits, it becomes more. So there's the inevitable caution. So right now, we were like celebrating at this point. We're like, yay, it's not over. We can come back. So now I'll do my pit stop. So you'll see on the bottom, I'm checking to make sure. So we're gonna do 4 tires. Sometimes you may want to just do 2. Yeah, you can see some people in the chat are not very happy about whatever happened.
Where?
On the top.
Oh, the top.
Yeah.
Is that the top?
And then yeah.
Oh.
I was
didn't see
looking
that.
at the bottom right.
Yeah.
I thought it was somewhere in the bottom right.
But so since we're so far back, we need to catch before the pit cycle. We need to catch all the way back up to the end of the field. So you can see that's why we're going like full throttle under yellow flag. Yeah.
Oh,
So we got to catch all the way back up to the field before the pit opens. Otherwise, we're going to lose a lot of time. So
Okay. And are some like, I don't want to say maps, but some my brain just went
Tracks.
completely blank. Tracks. There you go. Thank you. Are some tracks more like crash prone than others? And
Definitely.
This is one of those that is.
yeah, this is a very crash prone track as opposed to others. The main thing is just because you're traveling so fast, the crashes are usually a lot more violent at Daytona as compared to like a short track. You may only be going like 60 miles an hour. So now we're going into the pit lane. So the interesting thing about a stock car compared to the cars I'm used to is these cars don't have pit limiters. So you have to so normally you hit a button and it keeps the car at that speed. Here you have to do it manually. So right now I'm looking at the thing and making sure I don't go over.
Are you driving in a stock car this round?
Yeah, that's all. That's NASCAR. It's only stock cars. So here is my.
Oh my God, that caught me too.
that was a jump scare and a half.
Yeah, so they have it. Sorry, I was like, what's happening? That's we get used to that. So you get you can drive through other cars only on the side with the boxes. So if you see the white line right there, you'll crash. But that, yeah, you can drive through people.
I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. So if you see on the pit stop, I missed the pit box when I enter. So there's like a certain place you need to stop, and if you miss it, they'll like make you reverse. So I kind of missed it, which was, yeah, not the end of the world. But you can see right now the damage. So it's saying how long I've been in the pit. So they've changed all my tires and optional repairs. So to avoid going a lap down, we're just gonna sit here and then repair until we see the pace car come by. And then, so if you get out ahead of the pace car, I don't know, this is like Lightning McQueen thing, you've watched that, where it's like, oh, we gotta get out ahead of the pace car at the end, and he like jumps, so that's basically what we're doing. So they're fixing the car, as much as we can, and then we're gonna race a bit, and then when there's another yellow flag, we'll do the same thing again.
Okay. And what kind of strategy going in front of the pace car? Is that kind of like...
It's just so you don't lose a lap. So so they're going at a slow speed. I can get in front of the pace car and then just full throttle it all the way around and catch the tail of the pack. Because if the pace car passes me, then I go a lap down. And then, yeah.
Big brain strats. Big brain strats.
This is also not really strategies that I'm used to either. Because like in GT racing, there are not really any cautions. So it doesn't really work that way. So this is all new, which is, again, having a spotter is helpful. Because he's done this a lot of times, so he knows exactly what he's doing and what the best strategy is, and I'm kind of just like, is this the right thing to do? So.
And the way that the wall is curving, is that the bank that you were saying?
Yeah, so I'm on the unbanked part exiting the pits, but yeah, that's the, yeah.
Okay. Not scary at all.
Yeah.
It's physics.
Love physics. Shout out to physics. Any physics in chat? So, sorry.
I'm checking if there's any physics in chat.
Okay, so what? So now you've managed to get in front of the pace car, and
Yeah.
you're just
So
flooring
now
it?
I'm just sending it until I get to the end of the current pack, which you'll see right now. It's saying I'm in 14th place, so everybody else got wrecked. So even with like all the repairs and everything and everybody passing me, I'm in like 14th. Yeah, two people it says they're on the same lap, I think also had damage and did the same thing that I did, just repaired until the pace car came around. So
Kind of wish we could have seen that wreck. Sounds like it was a gnarly one.
yeah, we didn't really see it at all. I didn't get the replay because I forgot. Whoops, but
It's fine. Yeah, it's totally fine. I'm just glad you were not in that. It seems like
Yeah.
really bad. If you
It
got
was
14th.
a little bit honestly of an advantage because of that. So these guys are all lapped, so I just get to go by them. Yeah, it was honestly not a terrible thing that happened because we got a free ticket to avoid the wreck. So now we've just gained like 10 spots from that. So
Okay. Nice.
Yep.
So now is it just kind of like playing the waiting game of...
yeah, so now we're at the halfway point. We're on lap 30. So now is more seeing if the car is better. So you'll see I'll be able to stick with them. I can still feel it's damaged based on the straight line speed, but I'll be able to stay with them a little bit better. So
Okay.
Is the second half paced the same as like the first? Like, are we like at the halfway point of the thing, or is this?
yeah, this is like we're at lap I think 34 to 60. But yeah, this is where it starts to get a little bit more aggressive. I think people initially are going to be a little bit more careful considering the whole field wrecked, so they're probably a little bit like shaken up from it and like we should maybe calm down a bit, but then that'll go out the window once everybody gets comfortable again.
It's always like a little nerve-wracking to watch some of the cars. Like you're going so fast and it kind of jerks a little bit and it's like, oh no.
Yeah, you can feel every little thing through the steering wheel, so if you see how much the wheel is actually moving, that's all like reaction of the car. Trying to keep
Wow.
it straight.
And how, I guess like with practice is how you manage kind of like correcting, making micro corrections and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So now the bar at the top that's underneath the rearview mirror, that's green. So does that mean you're now going faster than
Yes.
your previous lap?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if you saw there too, the guy pushed me and the whole car, like the whole wheel just went back and forth. Yeah, so here is when I'm realizing the car is maybe not as fixed as I thought, and it's moving around a lot. This guy also was having some lag in front, which is why his car is just like shaking everywhere.
And
Ah.
lag, is that like actual game lag or?
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
That's the thing in sim racing too, why it's a little bit scary sometimes at these tracks. If somebody's internet goes out in front of you and then comes back on, you may not see them until you're like in the back of their car. So
What? So does their car like completely disappear if they like
Yeah.
cut out and then come back?
it didn't really happen in this, but when that happens, it's kind of terrifying. Usually, like, some of the people, like, make them quit. They'll be like, if it's, not really in this split, but, like, in the top split, if it was happening, they'd probably say, like, go into the pits until you can fix it, just so they don't wreck everybody.
That's totally fair. Okay. This seems like there's a lot of like real variables to account for, but also stuff that like that just comes with playing video games that's also incorporated that you have to watch out for. I think it's petrifying that a car can disappear and then reappear.
Yeah. No, when. So if you look in the top mirror, they're going to wreck behind me at some point. Apparently it was within, like, inches of my car. Like, they... I don't... Yeah. You'll see.
All right, everybody, make sure you're looking nice and close at your screens.
Yeah, it may not be this lap.
And how many lap totals are there? I forgot to ask.
So there's 60. So they
60.
usually, it's supposed to be, I don't know what the exact distance is, but they try to make it the same for different tracks. So like the shorter tracks is like 110 laps, but it's still the same distance.
That's
Yeah,
a
no,
lot
it's
of
not
laps.
here, it's later. When that blue car behind me gets closer.
And how many cars were in that crash?
The last one, I think like 15. So I think starting there were like 30 people, or 35 started. So
Whoa.
yeah.
Okay. That took a lot of people out.
Yeah.
And were most of them completely done, or did they just have to sit in the pit and get fixed
Most
up
of them
first?
just sat in the pits and repaired. I don't know if you saw in the front, they almost lost it. He went on the apron. So if you can imagine, like when you saw us exiting a pit lane, if you go on the apron there, it's like going from the side of a wall to a flat thing, so you can go very sideways.
And
yeah.
what is the apron?
The
Again?
thing below the yellow line.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the track limit. So if you go below that, you're technically not on the track anymore.
And do you get like a penalty for that?
Yeah. In real life, you're not allowed to overtake on that yellow line unless somebody pushes you there. So if somebody like sideswipes you onto the yellow line, you're allowed to overtake them to get back on the track. But in actual racing, like when that doesn't happen, you're not allowed to go below it.
Okay. And is a rule similar? Does that same rule apply? And is this like in iRacing, or is that just for the actual racing?
It's both, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it's both. Sorry, my brain tired.
No, you're totally fine. I'm watching closely because I want to see the wreck that you were talking about.
Yeah, I think it may take them a little bit. So right now, just strategy-wise, I'm kind of, yeah, here it is. Bye-bye.
What?
There they go. Yeah.
Wow.
So I didn't really, because, yeah, I wasn't looking in my mirror, so I didn't really, like, you're kind of looking every now and then, so I didn't really see that happen. I just saw the yellow flag, but I watched it back. I was like, oh.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. So that was very lucky. There. Apparently they almost like tagged me there. So I survived barely.
Wow. Okay. Well.
Yeah, you can see on the top it said somebody disconnected. Somebody just immediately quit after that. They're like, I'm done.
I'm not gonna lie, I probably would too. That looked really bad.
Yeah.
Does that happen often? Like people they get so frustrated or something so bad happens, they just leave?
Yeah, sometimes.
Wow, okay. So now what lap are you on now?
Now we're on 41. So now it's the chaos will begin if there wasn't enough chaos. But so now you see like I'm like one of the last people in the lead lap. So basically there's like 12 people left, so it's not as chaotic as 40 cars in like the last 20 minutes. Or 20 laps. It caused just complete chaos, but yeah.
And what is your mind like? Where's your mind at now as you're kind of in the home stretch?
First is just on like fixing the car. I'm like, this is my chance. I can fix the rest of the damage. Yeah, and right now I'm like I can actually make up some ground. Like now it's like I can fix the car and maybe winning is in the question. So.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah. So you'll see, I'll be like one of the only people that'll go into pit lane. And there's a rule just, so I'm still not, even though that guy's on a different spot, I'm still not allowed to pass him, which is why I slow down so early. Yeah, so now I still didn't learn from the first attempt. I'm gonna miss the box again, which you'll see. I'll just have to like shift into reverse at the last minute. See, too far. Yeah, so now I got 30 seconds, which is more than it takes the pace car under caution more than that. So we're just like, okay, this is good. We'll have a mostly fixed car.
Okay. Seems like better than a lot of the other racers right now.
Yeah. Generally, the good thing about getting wrecked early is that you still have time to fix it and come back, which is good, because if you get wrecked now, you're kind of done. You can't really come back.
Okay. All right. And now you're trying to get back in front of the pace car, or trying to get in front of the pace car, I should say.
So now since the pace car didn't get that far in front, because it was only 30 seconds, I'm just catching up to the back of the train of cars.
Okay. And what place are you in? I'm trying to.
So now I'm in 11th.
Okay.
So even with all the crashes and stuff, because so many people got wrecked, I'm up to 11th, and I'm like one of the last cars on the lead lap.
How many just cars in total are left after all this?
I think there was like 25. Oh no, it says up top there's still 30. So, yeah.
I can't see very well from
By
the
the
angle that I'm
yellow
in.
flag, yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yep.
You'd think I'd be able to see with glasses on, but you know.
There's a lot of numbers.
Yeah, there's a lot of you kind of learn of which things you look for. Mainly the information, you're really only looking on the far left to see position, car number, and then the far right to see the lap times. The other stuff doesn't really matter that much.
I feel like you'd be really good at like MMOs.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree.
Do you consider yourself a gamer?
I think so.
Yeah.
Why do you think so?
I like video games.
You heard it
Yeah,
here.
I've played, well, the other game I didn't tell you, I played a lot of Arma. I don't know if you know that. I have like 500 hours in it. That's what I used to play before I get into sim racing. It's like a mil-sim game.
What? I've
Like
never heard of that.
Military simulator. See, the problem is you start doing one simulator and then you do all of the simulators, and yeah.
I see.
All right. Interesting. You said Arma?
Yeah.
Hopefully
I was
we have some
very bad at it. But it was
500 hours
it
in
was still fun, yeah.
That's all that matters, is that you're having fun. Yeah, that's all that matters. All right.
Yep.
Seems like, so I find it interesting how it seems like it goes from, oh, it's kind of slow to it just picks up really fast, then it slows back down. Is that kind of how like the ebbs and flows of it is kind of how it goes?
Yeah. I mean, the cautions give you, I like them in some sense, because it's like, especially after like a long run of like 20, 30 laps or something, it's good to just be able to look at everything, and just, because it's a lot harder to look at like the fuel and everything and think when you're having other cars like pushing you and stuff, so it kind of just gives you like time to actually think about what you're gonna do and what your strategy is. Too many are not fun, because like sometimes it'll be like one lap they'll wreck, caution, it'll go green, it'll wreck again, and you'll just be sitting under caution. So here is I think this is the last caution of the race, so I think it's green flag from now on. So
Okay. Oh.
yeah. So now at this point, my car like accelerating and stuff, I can already feel. I'm like, oh, it's fixed. It works how it's supposed to now. So I'll be able to get much closer and have more top speed. I think there was still like, I think a tiny bit of the top speed, but it wasn't really that noticeable. So
This is where you really start pulling away.
yeah, this is where they'll start like really pushing. And this is where I think I push a bit too much, but yeah. So at this point, it's not just like, so in the beginning, you don't really want to push as much just to avoid the wrecks, but now it's like, if I'm not lifting off to avoid going into the back of them. Like if I am carrying more speed, I will push them hard.
Get out the way.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's because this is like the final
Yeah.
few laps.
Yep. Final, I think 15 going across the line now. Yep.
Wow. Okay. It's just so nerve-wracking seeing how bunched up everybody is like in a
Yeah.
pack.
How much they're moving to is kind of scary. So it's not like when they're going up and down the track, that's not like they're steering up and down the track. That's their car sliding away from them. So yeah.
Is there a way to gauge when you can see that a car is like starting to wobble a lot, and then you know like, okay, I should probably get away from you because you might like spin out or
Yeah.
something? Ooh. It seems like you have to have a lot of game sense to kind of be able to gauge when that'll happen, so you don't like
Yeah.
fall behind or like potentially avoid getting into a wreck.
Yeah.
How nerdy do you think the average iRacer is? Like how much math goes into this?
It depends on like what. Generally, with at least for me, most of the strategy that I'm doing is kind of do what everybody else does and kind of see. But like some of the esports teams will have like legitimate like strategists saying like calculating like, okay, if we pit now, we'll get out here and all this stuff. So
Wow, so it's very technical.
yeah, it can be. It's what's I guess cool about sim racing is you could have like somebody just in their garage that doesn't really race that much beat somebody with like a full-on team. It's not very, because like with the whole team you get an advantage, but it is possible. Like big esports teams will get like beaten by just some random guy. So
Shouts out to the random guy.
yeah.
Could be you. Person in the chat.
I can't see.
So you
chat.
see, we're approaching a lapped car, so this gets sketchy. So that car's a lap down, so we're just like, we need to go around them. So he goes all the way out of the way. He's like, please don't kill me. You'll see one of the guys, I think it's this guy, does not in the middle of the corner. So everybody, like the top lane, knows that, and you'll see they'll go all the way up to the wall. Yeah, like that. They'll go all the way up to the wall, and everybody else will go down. I didn't see that guy until the last minute either, so I was like, oh, there's a car there.
Wow. Well, you're very quick. 'Cause you got out the way very fast. It looked like you knew that car was there.
Oh
Ooh.
my god.
This is so tense.
No, literally,
Yeah.
my heart is like racing.
Yes, like if I took my pulse, 110 easy. This is. I'm very impressed about how you're able to keep such a cool head because my anxiety would be eating me up
Yeah.
right now.
Your heart rate gets very high during like afterwards. You're like, wow, my heart rate is really high.
Do you feel like when it's in the ladder, you can tell that you're starting to, okay, I need to play a little bit more aggressive, or like kind of how does your strategy shift as you get farther into the race?
Now you want to look for opportunities, but you don't. It's like risk management. You don't want to take too big of a risk that'll get you wrecked at this point. So it's all kind of about taking calculated risks until like the last 2 laps, and then it's just like it doesn't matter if it's calculated or not. Just do it and see what happens.
Just go for it.
Yep.
Let's see. Okay. Just a super quick breakdown. I know you gave us some sense of like what the different things on the screen are, but not all of them.
Yeah.
What's like
Whoa.
Scary.
that was close.
I think up ahead too, I may like lose the car. You'll see my steering wheel be turning like all the way right into a left-hand corner. That was scary.
Is the orange, like the little orange strip at the top of the steering wheel to show you like where
Yeah.
the top of the steering wheel is?
Yep.
Okay, that makes sense. Oh, this is getting tense. Yeah, it's getting tense.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm trying to see. What lap are we on?
Blue shell would get crazy
50.
here.
Yeah.
There was a banana
So now if you
peel.
see there, as we're getting, the bottom line is getting closer to us to give us less room. So they're like, yeah, they're very close. So I think, is this where I push? Yeah, so I push this guy. Oh, he survives this time. Yeah. Spoiler
time.
alert, the guy in front goes flying. Which
This
may have
time.
been partially my fault. I apologize.
He had to get out the way.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, so that's people. Yeah, so now I'm really starting to push. Like, if you see, now I'm kind of slowly being like, all right, it's time to go. So at this point, too, I'm seeing that top line start to get ahead, and I'm starting to get a little bit like, you guys gotta, like, 37, or is he 37? I don't know what number he is. Yeah. 37? Yeah, at this point, I'm like, we gotta go.
I see there's 2 cars at the very front. Are they a lap behind, or are they
Yep.
just actually in front?
No, they're a lap behind.
Okay.
Yeah, this guy's like, did he move? Sort of, yeah. He thought he wasn't going to move and then saw the cars and was like, okay.
Let me get out the way. Oh.
So really what you want to do is you want to keep your car as straight as possible so the person behind you can push you without killing you. But yeah, that's kind of what happened to the car in front. He wasn't lined up properly for whatever reason. I guess he just wasn't expecting it, and that's part of what caused it.
Oh.
Yeah, I think this is it. Yeah, there. I don't know if you just saw on the side. Yeah. So I was like, oh, whoopsies. Yeah.
There.
I
There
felt
he
bad about
goes.
that too. I was like, oh, that wasn't supposed to happen. But
Well,
so now I'm up to 4th. So now it's, what is it, 8 to go. So now we're now that guy's gone, I'm gonna push this guy like even more, just to get him away. This guy's making it 3 wide for some reason.
is there any like strategic way to get in between those cars to get in front, or do you kind of just have to?
It depends. So if you see, he has somebody behind him. So the only reason you really want to do that if somebody can push you to get through. So he's making it 3 wide, and he has somebody behind him. So I guess that's why. But
37 troll.
Just a little bit, I do fear. Oh.
so
Okay.
another big push. The guy behind me is gonna start pushing too.
Is this where it's like you guys are just getting closer and closer together?
Yeah.
You're going so fast that.
Oh yeah. Here's where I start to slide. My steering wheel's just moving like everywhere. Yeah, there it is. You saw that? I was like, oh.
Whoa.
I don't know. It feels like once you have like practice with it, it feels like everything goes into slow motion for a minute. You're just going through like the steps of saving your car, and in the middle of it, you're like, "This is it's over. I'm not gonna save the car. I'm gonna go into the wall." And then you're still pointing the right direction. You're like, "How?"
Magic, I think. Okay.
So now we're getting to 5 to go. So now it's go time. So now it's all right. Let's see if we can. And everybody's thinking the same thing. It's like, okay, now it's time to go win this race.
So it's time to just floor it.
It's time. Yeah.
So
more lap cars in front.
honestly, if I was the lap car, I think I would just throw in the towel at that point.
Yeah, most of the guys, so they're being like very respectful and just because they know that they don't want to get involved in this. So that guy goes like the extra mile to get out of the way so he doesn't cause any difficulty. These two in front have a different idea. They're like, we're just going to be in the way. They try to go high. Yeah, they
They're mad. They're mad.
So
I'm
now
gonna
this
slow everyone
more
down.
3 wide. Yeah.
Oh my
So
goodness.
he didn't have anybody behind him. So he goes back. They're like, get back in line.
Oh. They're so, it's just the cars are so close together.
Yeah. So that, I almost killed him there.
You almost killed a man?
Yeah. I think, I think I got pushed into the guy in front in a minute. Yeah, so that...
Oh.
If
That
you
was
see
dangerous.
You see her, I don't know if you can see the, like, throttle on here, but I was just completely, like, lifted for a minute. You see that and you just start to brake. You're like, nope, be ready to stop.
How, I mean, when you start to turn out that wide, how do you even recover from that?
Generally, it's just you want to lift off the throttle and kind of modulate the throttle to get the grip back in the tires. So it's just kind of practice. Yeah, they're stuttering kind of badly. That wasn't on my screen. That was just the recording.
Oh, I see. Okay. I was going to say, what's happening? So you're in...
Oh my god.
Yeah.
He's
I don't know how he
swerving.
caught that guy. Yeah, he hit the bottom of the track, so he just lost it there for a minute. So now it's 2 or 3 to go.
Oh. We're down to the nitty gritty.
Yep.
Okay. And what place are you in currently?
6th.
Wow. It's crazy how you were able to pull from a wreck to pull from 24th all the way back up to 6th. That's kind of...
Yep. So now there's a guy on the outside that's kind of squeezing me. I lose it.
Whoa.
Rip that
Oh
guy.
my God.
I hit him. So usually a caution didn't come out here. So now it's 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you're gonna see a guy behind me is I'm gonna like kind of block him here, and he's gonna start pushing me. Like this guy's gonna push. So at this point he knows that I'm not gonna let him by, and what he wants to do is just work with me and get me as far ahead as possible. So look at the run I have here now, because he's like, now they're just not even pushing. They're just like ramming you basically. So
I mean...
that's one guy. So now all of us are working together to basically ditch that guy, because now it's one guy less that we need to worry about, which is just like, because if you get out of line there, it's kind of, they're not letting you back in. So now this is my attempt to try to win. So this guy's gonna push me a lot. I think
First
there's
of all,
one more after.
big ups for not completely losing it after
Yeah.
you rammed into that car.
So at this
Wow.
point, my car is now damaged a little bit as well. This was a bit of a block, so you see it. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna let this guy go.
Wow. Okay.
So now it's just, I'm waiting. I was thinking, like, should I go there to try to get a run on that guy? I didn't, because he had nobody behind him. But I'll get I think the white car there is gonna try to help me, or the person behind him. Yeah, so the person behind him, this guy helped me a lot. So look at this. Look how hard he pushes. And now that gap is closing, and he's gonna push me one more time. So now at this point, I'm just hoping that I get enough of a push to get in front, which, yeah. So now this is a big no-no, but it's only for the last lap. He's pushing me in the corner, which is why you don't do that, because it gets sideways. So there's a car also on my outside you can't see. So now it's 3 wide, and this guy's gonna push me at the end just to get ahead of him. So there, we get third. Those two somehow didn't wreck each other over the line either. So that was it, and that's me getting out of the way.
You get third?
Yep.
Woo.
Wow.
So
Whoa.
yeah.
that was...
If you can see, I'm like driving all over the like apron and stuff now, because I'm like, oh.
Wow. That was very impressive. You really pulled through.
Thank you.
That takes a lot of talent. Wow.
Whoa, I'm stressed out.
Yeah.
Wow. Especially at that end, that last like crash where that car was completely turned and you just
Yeah.
kept going.
I was watching the Split 1 back too, which is like most of the professionals, and they just like, I think it was like 20 cars at the end, and just people were like literally flying and stuff. It's like, yeah, but.
Oh my god.
Well, I think that's it. Thank you so
Yep.
much for
Thank
coming
you
on
for
the...
having me.
Of course. Thank you for coming on the stream and telling us about the game. I learned a lot. It was very tense and exciting. We hope to have you again.
Thank you.
Any last words?
I guess I'm gonna do, what is it? Round 3 and 4 are coming up in like 2 weeks and then 4 weeks. So I'm gonna see if I can get into split 1 for there to get some. So split 1 has championship points. So I'm gonna see if I can get any of those, and we'll see what happens. But yeah,
We're rooting for you.
thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming to the stream. We'll probably be streaming again next week. And what will we be streaming next week? Do you know?
I don't know yet.
Yeah, we don't know. So,
Something.
yeah. You guys tune back in, and thank you for coming.